Today's a day that many Porsche Taycan and Porsche Macan EV owners have been waiting for. That's because today is the day that Porsche gains access to the Tesla Supercharger network. And here today, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know as a Porsche EV owner to access the Tesla Supercharger network. First up, we're going to talk adapters. This is the official Porsche adapter. Might look familiar to you, and that's because Porsche did what many of the other OEMs did and partnered with Electron to provide their NACS to CCS1 adapter. Looks pretty familiar here if you line it up next to some of the other adapters out there, but the Electron adapter is a very robust, well-made adapter, so it makes sense that Porsche partnered with them. Also, this specific adapter, and many of the OEM adapters that they partnered with Electron are slightly different. This adapter here is actually safety certified. It's the first one that Electron put out that actually went through a safety certification process. So this is coming to market safety certified. None of the other OEM supplied adapters were actually safety certified when they first launched them. This one is, so good on Porsche for that. We're going to talk about adapters during this video, but also at the end for a bit, and different adapters that are available. For the record though, this is the only one that Porsche wants you using on their cars. So that's up to you how strict you're going to follow their directions. I always recommend following the manufacturer's directions, but I know people have their own minds and they often do what they want to do. So we'll talk about different adapters too towards the end of the video. We're also going to go over how you add your car to the Tesla app, because as of today, you have to authenticate the charging process through the Tesla app. The Porsche's app integration isn't done yet. It will be at some point in the future. You'll be able to have a charging session authenticated through the Porsche app. But for now, if you want to use the Tesla Supercharger network, you have to do it through the Tesla app. So we'll go through how you set your vehicle up in the Tesla app. And we'll also travel to a Tesla Supercharger and authenticate the charging process. I'll walk you through step by step how you start a charging session at a Tesla Supercharger. We're also going to talk about how you need to park your Taycan. The Macan EV really isn't a problem because of the charge port location and the length of the back of the vehicle beyond the charge port. You're going to basically just back a Macan EV into a stall like a Tesla vehicle, and the connector reaches, and it's not a problem. It becomes a little more difficult with the Taycan, more difficult than I would have thought it would be, because I've tested many other electric vehicles at Tesla Superchargers. The Taycan is unique. It has a very unique issue because the hood stretches so far beyond the charge port that it's very difficult to park. You have to park sideways to get in there, but we'll go into that later when I'm up at the Tesla Supercharger. I'll explain exactly how you have to park in order to be able to reach the plug, unless you get some sort of an extension cable, which aren't really readily available yet. They will be in the future, but for now, you're gonna have to park sideways in order to have the cable reach. I'm also gonna do a 10 to 80% charge recording at the Supercharger and compare it to my 10 to 80% charge recordings that I've done in the past with the vehicle on a 350 kilowatt CCS station. And we'll see just how much longer it's going to take at a Supercharger. It is going to take longer. I don't know exactly how much longer yet, but we will go over that once I have all that data. And also, Calvin Kim, Porsche's North American spokesman, is going to be flying up from Georgia today and meeting me at a Tesla Supercharger to talk to me about this announcement here today that Tesla Superchargers are available for Porsche vehicles. And also, we'll just talk about Porsche charging strategy in general. With that said, let's get into it. All right, so as I said earlier, the Porsche app isn't quite finished yet with the Tesla Supercharger integration, so you need to download the Tesla app. Once you've done that, there's two things you need to do. You need to enter your payment method, because you need to have a payment method in there, and then you need to enter your vehicle details. So first, let's go over the payment method. First, open the Tesla app, and then what you're going to do is click on the 3 parallel bars on the top right-hand corner of the screen. Next, hit charging. And next you're going to hit Manage Payment. Now, I'm not going to hit this and open it up now because my personal information is in there. But once you open that up, you have to enter your personal information, your credit card, whatever payment method you're going to have, and then save it and close out of there. Now we need to add your vehicle. So we'll go back to the charging screen, and then what we're going to hit is Vehicle Details. After we hit Vehicle Details, we hit the plus symbol on the top right-hand corner of the screen. You may notice that I have vehicles in here already. That's because I use the Tesla app. So whether you have a Tesla access already with another EV, or if this is your first one, you do the same thing. You hit the plus symbol on the top right-hand corner, and now you have to add your vehicle, which is make, Porsche, model, Taycan, or Macan EV. Then you enter the year, and then it's going to ask you what the maximum range is of the vehicle. Put your EPA range rating in there. Then it's going to ask you, does your vehicle have a NACS charging inlet, or do you have a NACS to CCS1 adapter? That's what this is. I'm assuming you have this already. You're going to get one soon. Hit yes, and then hit save. Now you're all set up. You have your management payment system set up, and you also have your vehicle entered into the app. Now all you need to do is go to a Tesla Supercharger and use it, which is what we're going to do next. I'm going to hop in this 2025 Taycan rear-wheel drive that I have here for range and charge testing this week, and also to make this video. Porsche was kind enough to provide me with a vehicle and the adapter. This is like one of only 2 adapters in the US right now, but this is earlier than you're watching this, obviously. By the time that Porsche has a Supercharger access, they're supposed to have these stocked at the dealerships for you to purchase. I'm going to talk a little bit later in the video about how you get the adapter. You know, and some people it's going to be provided to them. We'll go through all that details later, but for now, let's head up to the Supercharger. We're going to go step by step on how you use the Tesla app to start and stop a charging session with your Porsche. Then I'm going to head to another Tesla Supercharger because that's the one that Calvin Kim from Porsche is going to meet me at. He's flying up to New Jersey just for like a couple of hours. So we're arranging to meet at a Supercharger that's really close to the airport, so he doesn't have to drive halfway across the state. We'll go over some of Porsche's thoughts on getting Supercharger access, as well as Porsche's charging strategy on its electric vehicles in general. So I'll see you up at the Tesla Supercharger. We'll go over how to use the app. State of Charge is powered by Qmerit, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which charger to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. And if you do follow that link, Qmerit will waive the $150 installation deposit. But this is an exclusive offer for State of Charge followers. So in order to get that offer, you must follow the link in the description of my videos. All right, so you've pulled up to the Tesla Supercharger with your Porsche Macan or Porsche Taycan. Now, if you have a Macan, this is pretty easy because the DC charge port is on the left rear of the vehicle, in the same location that Tesla vehicles locate their charge port. So you'd simply back into the charging stall, no problem. Well, you'd need the adapter first, but then you'd plug into the rear of the Macan. If you have a Taycan, it is many degrees of difficulty more. And that's because of the location of the charge port and how the front of the Taycan is designed. The front of the Taycan is very long. The charge port is set back here, but there's a good 4.5 feet in front of the charge port. And because of that, you can't simply pull straight in because the charging cord will not reach this charging port. So like many other electric vehicles, non-Tesla electric vehicles that charge at Tesla Superchargers, you need to occupy 2 stalls in order to charge your EV. Not ideal, but that is the way it is. Now you can see I have it parked on an angle, and that's because with many of the other brands, electric vehicles, you could simply park in the middle of 2 spaces and reach your charge port. It's not the case with the Taycan. I've backed it in and out, trying different ways to make it reach. It won't reach. The only way to make it reach is to take up 2 spots on an angle like this, have your charge port door basically even with the cable, the end of the cable where it comes out of the supercharger. Now this will reach. You also have to pull up as far as you can, often with the front of the vehicle in front of the curb. I know this isn't ideal. So one thing that it's a good policy, if you're pulling into a Tesla Supercharger, the Taycan suspension is adjustable. When you pull up, hit lift, and also use the Smart Save feature. So if you're ever at that station again, when you pull into the parking lot and up to the charging stations, the vehicle will automatically lift. So if you're pulling very far up, there's less of a chance that you'll scrape underneath the front of your vehicle on the curb. In this instance here, I am over the curb. It was the only way that the cable will reach, unfortunately. So this is how you have to park. Now, you may get lucky and be at one of the few superchargers that has pull-through stalls. That makes it a lot easier, or actually very easy. Or if there's a row of charging stations like we have here, if you can park at the one that's to the far right, and that's only if there's an empty spot to the right of the front charger, then you're only occupying one Tesla Supercharger stall. You're still taking up 2 parking spaces, but you're only occupying 1 charging stall, which is ideal. You don't want to have to occupy 2 stalls. Now, Tesla has publicly stated that they're okay if owners of other brand electric vehicles use their supercharger network and take up 2 stalls. They understand that for now, this is how it's going to be. They are adding longer cables to the Tesla Superchargers, and the new V4 Superchargers already have longer cables. They'll reach the car. You can pull straight in and not have to worry about anything like this. But they're also going to retrofit the old V3 stations with longer cables. I'm sure that's going to take many years because there's, you know, maybe 20,000 stalls out there that are V3 Superchargers, and it would take a while for Tesla to make those cables and retrofit them. But this is how you have to park if you want to use a Tesla Supercharger. Next up, let's go over exactly how you authenticate the charge. Okay, so now you're at the Tesla Supercharger. You're parked properly where the cable will reach. You need to authenticate the charge through the Tesla app. Now, you can either authenticate the charge first and then plug in, or plug in first and then authenticate the charge. I'm going to plug in first today. Now, the only thing I will remind you is if you plug in first and then you take too long to go through the app and turn the charging on, you have to unplug and start again. But since I know how to do it, I don't think I'm going to take too long. So let's plug in first. Grab the Tesla connector. What you need to do is push the button on the bottom of the connector to allow the connector to seat inside the adapter, and make sure it's seated properly. Now, once the adapter is connected, you need to open your charge port, flip open the cover for the DC pins, and plug it in, and make sure that you hear it click, that it's fully connected to the vehicle. Now what you have to do is open your Tesla app. You'll see on the top right-hand corner, there's 3 parallel bars. You want to tag those. Next up, on the bottom, it says charge your other EV. You want to tag that, and then the app will locate you. And you should be located right at a Tesla Supercharger if you're there. You're the little blue circle, and the Tesla Superchargers are the red dots. What you want to do is tag the red Supercharger icon that's right next to you. And then on the bottom, you're going to see charge here. You have to tag that, and then you choose the port that you're parked at. Now you can see all of the Tesla Superchargers are labeled at the bottom of the units. I'm in stall 1C right now. So what I want to do is tag 1C, and then at the bottom it says start charging. Tag the start charging icon, and the vehicle should start charging. Now, once you're finished charging, there's a couple different ways that you can end the session. Well, first of all, if you had the vehicle set to charge to a certain limit and it hit that limit, the charging session would be over. You could also hit stop charging from within the vehicle, and then you could also stop charging from within the Tesla app, or if you press the button on the top of the Tesla connector, that automatically stops charging. And you could also press the button within the Tesla charge port. Now, once you know charging has stopped, you want to remove the adapter with the connector. You don't want to remove the connector from the adapter first. So you do that by pressing the button on top of the adapter and pulling it out of the vehicle at once. You then press the tab on the bottom of the adapter and release the connector from the adapter. Holster the Tesla connector, and then put your adapter back in the nice little Porsche case to keep the pins nice and clean. And you've just charged your Porsche Taycan or Porsche Macan at a Tesla Supercharger. All right, so I'm here with Calvin Kim from Porsche. Calvin was kind enough to meet me here at the Tesla Supercharger, so we can talk a little bit about Porsche's Supercharger access, and maybe a little bit more about Porsche's charging in general. You know, Porsche always charges so well, both the Taycan and the Macan, so maybe we could add a little bit to that at the end. So first off, thanks for coming. I appreciate you meeting me.
Great to be here. I'm glad to see the humidity is the same whether you're in Atlanta or in New Jersey. So
it's tough
feels like
today
home.
Right here. And if we look like we start sweating, we are. It's because I can't have the air conditioning on with the camera running. It won't sound good. So it's over 90 degrees and we're having fun here. But anyway, so you guys finally, and I'm going to say finally because most of the other OEMs have Supercharger access. Now you have Tesla Supercharger access. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the importance of that and how you view your customers using Supercharger access.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's clear that in the US, you know, we had kind of a bifurcated infrastructure, CCS on one side and NACS on the other side, and I think the market's kind of decided that NACS is the way to go. We understand that CCS isn't going anywhere, at least not for the near term, but the reality is we need to be prepared for the future. And having NACS capability obviously means future-proofing the cars. And so when you think of NACS, obviously the biggest network that runs that is Tesla, the Tesla Supercharger network. And honestly, a lot of our customers are familiar with the network. They already have the Tesla app on their phones. They may already have a Tesla car. Either they're just getting out of one or they already have one. And so from our perspective, it was important that we meet them where they are. You know, we could try to force the fast charging, fast driving narrative, but at the same time, most people are just commuting. They just want convenience and ease of use. And for sure, if you want best in class performance, you got to go to an 800 volt station. But for most people, they want to kind of alleviate the emergency, kind of the charger anxiety, and just having access to an additional, I think 23,500 locations. I mean, you can't beat that. You can't. And the interesting thing is, I think for many of the other OEMs, when their electric vehicle owners got access to Tesla Superchargers, I heard a lot of, oh wow, that's what I'm going to use from now on. Because they could charge just as fast at a Tesla Supercharger as they could from a CCS station. Their cars are 400 volt base cars. A lot of them don't charge as high a rate as Porsche vehicles can. But for Porsche customers, Tesla Superchargers, in my opinion, should not be their first choice. It should kind of be like there's no other 800 volt or 1000 volt CCS stations available, so I'm going to go to a Tesla Supercharger. Is that how you view it? I mean, for me, especially for a lot of our customers that are already familiar with the 800 volt network, CCS network, and they've been surviving just fine without it, I don't think they're going to change their driving behavior. But we do know that there's a group of people that are very familiar with the Supercharger network. They don't want to go anywhere else. They like the locations of the pedestals of the charging equipment, and you know, why limit them, right? I think for the first group of people that I mentioned, yeah, I agree. I think for them it's just going to be kind of like a flat tire kit, just in case. But then also for the new customer that's just coming in to electrification because you know they see a bank of superchargers at the mall that they always go to, you know, so be it. I mean, like I said, we're trying to meet them where they're at a little bit, and just again provide customer convenience. I think that's the number one thing. There are a lot of people that probably will use it once or twice, but the fact that it's in the car will give them the confidence to not only make the purchase decision, but also take it on a road trip. Go use the full capacity of the battery for once, you know?
Yeah, and you know, the Taycan charges so well, so is the Macan. I've done videos where the second generation, first generation charged exceptionally well, but you made it even better, and it'll charge from 10% to 80%. Porsche says 18 minutes. I've proven it's much less than that. Well, I'll say much less than that. 16 and a half minutes, somewhere around there, depending on, you know, the individual day. But you're going to charge, it's going to take a lot longer on a Tesla Supercharger. I'm actually making a video now. I'm recording a 10 to 80% charging session, and I'm going to compare it to the 10 to 80% charging sessions I've done on 800 volt DC fast chargers. That's a separate video, but I'll have a conversation about exactly how much longer, so you'll know how much longer, but it's going to be significantly longer. I'm just letting you know right now. If you're on a road trip and you're kind of in a rush, see if you can find a CCS station that's like a 350 kilowatt DC fast charge station, or 400 kilowatt, because you'll probably charge for less than half the time. It's going to take more than twice as much time at a Tesla Supercharger, but you can go there. And if it's the only port in a storm, it's definitely worth going to.
But you know, and the philosophy is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good, as you said, that the industry's coalescing around the NACS connector. I think it's a better connector.
Yeah, and honestly, from my perspective, the way that I see the best use case for the NACS adapter that we're coming out with is when you go to an 800 volt station that has mixed ports. So if there's a you know a location with 10 stations and 6 CCS for NACS, now you're not restricted to just the CCS stalls. You can go use the NACS stalls to the full 800 volt capacity. Right.
Sounds a lot like you're talking about Iona stations, because that's their current layout. If it's a 10 stall station, it's 6 CCS, 4 NACS. But they said that will change in the future as more NACS vehicles come on the market. So one of the things I want to touch on, which I think is interesting with regards to charging speed for first generation Taycan owners, the vehicle came standard with 50 kilowatt DC fast charging on 400 volt DC fast chargers. You had an option. It was a 150 kilowatt DC fast charging option, right? I told everybody, don't buy it. Listen, I say a lot of things, and sometimes they're true for one period of time, but then in the future they end up not being true. The thing is, when the Taycan first came out, there were no DC fast chargers in the US. When I say no, there were a handful. There might have been 6 of them in the entire country that were 400 volt DC fast chargers that could deliver more than 50 kilowatt. All of the higher speed DC fast chargers were 800 volt capable also. So I was telling everybody, it's a waste of your money. Don't buy the 150 kilowatt DC fast charging option. I apologize to those Taycan owners that followed my advice, didn't get the option, because then 3 years later, the Tesla Supercharger network is now open to those vehicles, and that's a 400 volt architecture. So unfortunately, that's not something we could have foreseen. Nobody thought back in 2020, when I made the video, that all the rest of the industry was going to start using Tesla Superchargers. So I apologize if you have a first generation Taycan, but now the Taycan doesn't have that problem. It comes standard with the 150 kilowatt 400 volt charging system, but that's the cap. It can't charge faster than that.
That's correct.
Yeah, but on the 350 kilowatt DC fast chargers, we see what, 320?
320,
320 kilowatts. So
nice high peak, and more importantly, really, it's how long you stay up there, right? The area, we call it area under the curve. And the more area under the curve you have, the more you shove in the pack.
It's almost not right to call it a charging curve.
Right.
You know, because it almost doesn't curve. You should call it a charging line.
Plateau.
You know, it's a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, and you can go 10 to 80% in 16 minutes. That's nuts. It's
my use case, I 8 minutes, 8 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
That's about.
You don't need the full. First of all, people don't always drive down to 10%. I know a lot of people that are afraid once they get under 20 or 15%, they don't want to take a chance. So, if you're going 15 to 70%, it's like a 10-minute stop.
It is, yeah.
Porsche has done a fantastic job with their DC fast charging, with the thermals. That's really the magic in it, is keeping the battery cool enough so it doesn't damage the cells.
Exactly, especially on days like today.
Well, and it goes hand in hand with the fact that you're a performance brand. You need to keep those cells cool for high sustained performance, so there's no thermal limiting. So you do it for the racetrack, but then the charging benefits.
Exactly. I mean, the thermal management system on the car improved drastically from the first run of Taycan, what we call J11 to J12, doubling both cooling and heating powers, because it does snow here. And so when you have your car parked in your garage and you have it plugged in, the battery will warm up, and so that when you leave your garage, you get access to as much of the battery as possible. So benefits both directions. All right, look what happened. It shut off. We're at 80%. So super. Listen, I appreciate you coming out and spending some time with me. Glad to be here. Yeah.
Dropping me off one of your shiny new adapters. So listen, safe travels back home, and keep delivering fantastic electric vehicles.
You're very welcome, and keep doing what you're doing. Maybe next time lower the temperature a little bit, will you?
Yeah, I'll see if I can do that. It's cool back in my garage if you want to go back to the state of charge garage. So. And once again, I'd like to thank Calvin for coming up to New Jersey to talk Porsche charging strategy with me. And if you noticed, there was a camera between us. You probably couldn't not notice that. I was recording a 10 to 80% charging session with the Taycan with the Performance Plus battery pack at a Tesla V3 Magic Dock Supercharger. And it took about 33.5 minutes, which is more than twice as long as it takes to charge from 10 to 80% on a CCS 350 or 400 kilowatt DC fast charger. So it is going to take longer. And the Taycan we were in was a 2025 Taycan, and that comes standard now with the 150 kilowatt 400 volt booster. I mentioned early with Calvin that the earlier Taycans only came standard with a 50 kilowatt 400 volt boost. And if you wanted to have the 150 kilowatt, you had to pay extra for it. It was an option. And I recommended to people not to get it because at the time there were no DC fast chargers in the country that Porsche could access that could deliver more than 50 kilowatts. So I thought it was a waste of money. Of course, the Tesla Superchargers was out there, but you couldn't access them. And at that time in 2020, almost nobody could foresee that the industry would switch to NACS and get Tesla Supercharger access. So if you have one of the older Taycans and you only have the 50 kilowatt 400 volt booster, it's going to take even longer because your maximum charging rate is going to be 50 kilowatt. It'll take about an hour to charge from 10% to 80%. So it's an option. You can do it, but it definitely is not your first option. Now, all of the newer Porsche electric vehicles, the Taycan and the Macan EV, have the 150 kilowatt 400 volt booster included with the vehicle. So you don't have to worry about that if you have one of the newer ones. But if you have one of the older ones, you have to know if you have that 150 kilowatt option or not. And if you don't, you'll know the first time you plug into a Tesla Supercharger. If you're only getting 50 kilowatts, you didn't buy that option. Unfortunately, you're going to be charging really slowly. But as we mentioned, the Supercharger shouldn't be your primary target if you're in a Porsche EV. You're going to charge much faster elsewhere. Okay, and so talking about the Tesla Superchargers, Tesla has a lot of different types of superchargers. They've had different iterations through the years. They had V1, then V2, V3. Now they're just starting to install V4. The majority of the superchargers out there are V3s today, and most of them you can access. There are a lot of V2 superchargers still out there. Porsche vehicles and electric vehicles from other manufacturers cannot access the Tesla V2 superchargers. Even with the adapter, you can't use it. It's not compatible. The vehicle and charger don't speak the same CCS language. You can access the new V4 superchargers that are going to be 1,000 volt. someday. These are designed to be 1,000-volt systems, and on those, you will charge as fast as you charge on a 350 or 400 kilowatt CCS station. But so far, Tesla's been installing these sites, and they're kind of calling them V3.5, because the chargers themselves are V4 chargers. They're capable of delivering 1,000 volts, but the cabinets, the power cabinets, are the old V3 cabinets. Now, Tesla claims they're going to be updating them really soon, and that they're going to be installing these 1,000-volt stations. But as of today, they're all limited to 400 volts, so you're going to charge slow even at the V4 sites. Now, the V4 sites also have longer cables, which are great for Taycan owners because you'll be able to reach your charge port without parking sideways. They reach the charge port of almost any electric vehicle. Tesla started designing them this way because they knew that the other vehicles were going to be using their network. So the new generation of superchargers have these big long cables that can reach your charge port. Just pull in straight. You don't have to block two stalls. Okay, so how do you know which Tesla superchargers you can use? Well, soon that will be integrated into the Porsche's charge planner. You'll be able to go to your navigation and search for chargers, and the Tesla superchargers will show up. And if you're on a route using the charge planner, it will include the chargers along your route that are Tesla superchargers that you can use with the adapter. It'll filter out the stations you can't use. But for now, the Tesla Superchargers are not integrated into the vehicles. So the way you know is by the Tesla app. You simply open up the app and it locates you, as we went over before, and it will filter out the stations that you can't charge at. It'll only show you the Tesla Superchargers you can charge at. You can't use any V2 stations. You can't access the Tesla urban superchargers. Those are the lower power 72 kilowatt superchargers that are in more urban areas. You can access most of the V3, not all of them, and most of the V4, not all of them either. So without using the app, you're really just guessing which supercharger you can use. So don't just assume a supercharger is compatible because you have your NACS adapter. Make sure you go in the Tesla app before you arrive at it. Otherwise, you could be in trouble with not being able to charge. And how much do Tesla superchargers cost? So like the other networks, Tesla has dynamic pricing. So the pricing varies on location. Depending on what Tesla pays for the electricity in that area, that affects what they charge you. And the pricing is also by time of day. So if you're in the heart of the day in prime charging time, you're going to pay the most. But if you go off peak hours, there's usually 3 different hours, like the peak hours are the most expensive. Then it's less expensive, I think like 10 o'clock at night to midnight or something like that. I don't know the exact time frame. And then from like midnight to 5 a.m., it's the least expensive, and it's a significant savings. You could also get a Tesla membership if you think you're going to use Tesla Superchargers a lot. And I don't think many Porsche owners will because of the fact that it charges slower. But if you are going to use Tesla Superchargers a lot, you can join Tesla. It's $12.99 a month. So it's $13 a month. And then you get reduced charging rates. Now, I would only recommend you doing that if you know you're going to use superchargers like more than twice a month. Otherwise, the savings isn't going to offset the $13 a month that you're paying to have the Tesla membership. So last thing we'll talk about is adapters. Now, this is the Porsche adapter. This is the one that Porsche recommends you use, and actually is stating that this is the only one they want you to use. This is the Electron Vortex 2. It's the latest one. This is the one that's also safety certified. It's basically the same as your Porsche adapter. It's not exactly the same, but it's basically the same. And honestly, you could use this interchangeably. It's not a problem. I would really be surprised if Porsche would have a problem with you using this because it's basically the same adapter. Although they want to be safe and tell you to use the one that says Porsche on it. You can buy it for $185. You can either order it online from Porsche or at your Porsche dealership. Porsche is going to be giving these out. It's going to come standard with the car. And if you have one of the J12 Taycans or new Macans, the 2025 versions, you're going to get an email from Porsche. They're going to give you instructions on how you can get your complimentary adapter. They're going to send it to you. However, if you own an older Taycan, one of the J11s, you have to buy it. Porsche's not going to give it to you, so it's $185. As I said, you can order it online or at your Porsche dealership. Let's say you're a free thinker and you don't want to use the Porsche adapter. I recommend you use the Porsche adapter, but I know people do their own thing. I would recommend only using the adapters you see on this table. There's dozens of adapters out there. Some of them are super low quality, and I wouldn't want you having a problem with your car, possibly damaging your car or the charger. But these adapters I have fully tested and are high quality adapters that I'm sure you're not going to have trouble with. That would be the Electron Vortex 2, which is their latest one that shares the same safety certification by SGS safety certification. I found it interesting that Electron used that company, SGS, to do their safety certification to UL 2252 because they're not one of the big companies that do safety certification for electronics. I have maybe 100 items in this garage that are safety certified, chargers, adapters, all different charging equipment. And none of them have been safety certified by that company, SGS. They're all either UL label on it or ETL or CSA. Those are the big nationally recognized testing labs. I found it odd that Electron went with this SGS. I'm going to do some more research on that. I'm actually going to talk to Electron directly about the choice of using that labs when they really don't safety certify electric vehicle charging equipment. So I found it odd, but in any event, it does have safety certification from SGS Labs. There's two other adapters that I recommend, and this is the A to Z Typhoon Pro. This is undergoing safety certification, and from what I understand, within a month or two, it's going to be safety certified. And this is the Amphenol adapter, which is already safety certified. The problem is, as of today, you can't buy it yet. It's a brand new adapter to hit the market, and Amphenol is coming to market with it being safety certified. And this was safety certified by CSA, I believe. CSA or ETL, I'm not sure. I think it was CSA. But in any event, that's one of the three major safety certification companies that are out there. All of these I feel confident with. I've used them extensively, the Electron, the A to Z, and the Amphenol. I've used dozens of times on my EVs, and they're super high quality, well-made adapters. I would not recommend any of the other adapters that cost less. Please don't go to don't go to Amazon and filter by price and just buy the least expensive NACS to CCS1 adapter. You're asking for trouble. And that's why all the OEMs are saying you can only use the adapter that we sell you because they can't test 40 different adapters. And so they're not even going to try to start testing adapters. I'm certain if the companies did test the Electron, the A to Z, and the Amphenol, they would say, these are quality adapters, you could use them. But the fact is, they're just not going to put the time and effort to check 50 different adapters. And they're just going to say, this is the one we tested. We know it's good. This is the one we want you to use. It's up to you. I have links for the Electron Vortex and also the A to Z adapter in my videos. There's a discount code for both of them. Use the State of Charge discount code. You could save some money and get them for even less than what Porsche is selling this for. But again, you have to decide what adapter you want to use. This is the one that Porsche wants you to use. So that should be your number one recommendation. But if you don't want to, please use one of these. Don't buy one of the other lower quality, cheaply made, poorly engineered adapters. All right, well, that's all I have here today for everything you need to know to charge your Porsche EV on Tesla Superchargers. I know you guys have been waiting for this for a long time. It's unfortunate that Porsche's kind of at the end of the line with this. Most of the other OEMs have Tesla Supercharger access already. Not all of them yet, but and I'm talking to you, BMW, but not all of the OEMs have that supercharger access, but most of them do. And it's just good to have this as another option when you're on the road. We've talked at length of why it probably shouldn't be your first option if you own a Porsche, but at least you can access them if it's the only one available and you need to get some juice. Listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.